So I was lucky enough to meet Guy. We were just discussing this now. What, nearly five years, I reckon, probably is.
At least.
And Guy does something slightly different to the typical agent. He does network auctions. So I will leave Guy to explain exactly what it's all about. And it's a great little avenue and a different sideline stream for income for you to try and get your money for a bit quicker than waiting the length of time that we're doing through conveyancing at the moment. So
Okay,
here's
well, thanks, Rob. So my business is Network Auctions. I'm one of the founder, partners, and directors. We are a national firm, so we cover the whole of the UK. Although, to be fair, we tend to go for England and Wales and Scotland. As you know, things are a little bit different. We do sell things in Scotland. I always like things selling things in Scotland because my title then is Lord of the Roop. So as an auctioneer, yeah. So if you're an auctioneer in Scotland, you have the title of Lord of the Roop, which is quite funny. And the auctioneer in Scotland signs the contract for the buyer and the seller. So it's quite a lot of different rules. But anyway, generally speaking, we are covering our instructions are England and Wales, and we get properties all over the place. What makes a good auction instruction? It's generally the circumstances of the seller, someone who needs certainty. If you're selling something by auction, we have 10 auctions a year, so we're never more than 4 or 5 weeks from an auction, and probably our average time is 3 weeks. So from 3 weeks, someone says, "I want to sell a property," and our next sale is coming up in 3 weeks. They'll need a good lawyer, which is always a bit of a challenge. But if they can get a good lawyer who gives us a legal pack, and with that legal pack, that will have everything in there, and there'll be no further questions from a buyer, because they can't really ask any questions because everyone's going to buy on a level playing field. And on the day of the auction, they'll bid. The bids will come in, and contracts will be exchanged there and then. So the highest bidder exchanges contracts there and then. There's a lot more admin for us to do nowadays since with all the administrative, with the extra rules, plus since COVID, everything being online, we do need to have a deposit from everyone who's going to bid, and to do all their anti-money laundering stuff. But that's something we do, and we'll deal with that for the agents who introduce. Any agent that introduces us, we will pay an introductory fee. Do you want me to touch on that now, Rob?
Yeah, I mean,
So,
it's just on that. I mean, just before you go to the introductory fee, you advertise properties just like normal, like a
yeah,
right.
absolutely. So, we've got a very high presence on Rightmove, and so we very actively marketing campaign. We've got a PR agency who are fantastic. So, they'll do a lot of marketing for the actual individual properties, particularly if you've got something interesting. And we do sell a lot of interesting properties. I
Mm.
mean, we literally, when you think you've seen it all, there's something new that comes up. This year, we even had a former nudist colony. How about that? I mean, it's always something. We've sold
Wow.
a pier. We've sold a pier on the Thames. I always remember that was a very amusing one. We had the Thames River Authority phone us up and say, "What the hell do you think you're doing?" Immediately withdraw that from Rightmove. Immediately withdraw it. We own it. And then we defended ourselves. We've got a copy of the title. No, you do not, and we are not going to withdraw it. And about half an hour later, their lawyers phoned up and said, "I'm ever so sorry, we've made a mistake. Can we register to bid?" So we sell everything, so everything from a pier to a nudist colony and everything in between. What is important is the price. And I think this is key.
Sure.
You're not going to get, probably generally. Obviously, I can prove examples where there's been more than, it's been on the market for 500,000 private treaty and it ends up selling at 600. But as a general rule, you have to say there has to be some sort of discount for the fact that you're getting your property sold within 3 weeks. From 3 weeks from the day you say I want to put it on the market to the fact that you've exchanged contracts, that has to have to give a discount for that. And generally, we're probably sort of around, as a general rule, about 80%. I mean, unless it's the absolutely classic chocolate box cottage that everyone wants to buy, then you might be different. But from an average bog standard property, that's where you need to have in your back of your mind. And just talking about commissions for introducing agents, we will pay 50% commission for introducing agents. Our standard fee is 2.5%. We do also have an opportunity for that to rise up to 70% of the commission for people who become network auction partners, for those who are exclusively working with network as their auction provider. They can still do private treaty work, of course, but that's as their auction provider. So I mean, that's how it works. It's a very simple process, because it's very timelined. Everything is very timelined. It's no good having a lawyer who can't act quickly and can't have us the legal pack, because obviously we can't sell it. So we do need to work with people who can work quickly. Viewings have to be made available, and generally we probably only do, on average, we probably only do 3 viewings per property. Now that
Right.
might sound a bit harsh, because as an estate agent, you'll go around and view the property with a prospective buyer any time of day or night that they want. Whereas for us, we like to create a little bit of competition, and just have 3 viewings. We've got property that's just coming to the market at the moment. It's actually in our auction for this week on Thursday, that there have been no viewings. The sellers have said they do not want any viewings under any circumstances. We've managed to get a full video tour of the property, and it will be sold. We've got a lot of interest, a lot of people registered to buy it, and they understand, due to the situation of the seller, it's an unmodernised property. They didn't want any internal viewings, and it will still be sold.
And that's the beauty where, we work to assist. You and I having a conversation earlier when you were saying what you're doing now, Rob,
Yeah,
in terms of marketing, yes, we do work with the private treaty, market, but to be able to work with you as well. And, we've said initially, it's about banging this drum to get these exchanges done as a minimum within 28 days, but doing it this
yes,
way, bearing in mind they're every sort of 3 weeks, you're saying roughly
yeah,
these instructions or the auctions. The reality is the market is all about pricing property, as you said, and
of
actually
course.
the truth of it is if you've got the right buyer for a property anyway. And I would encourage more and more people when they move house to go and rent rather than trying to tie a deal in anyway, because
Yes,
it
I think that's
can be
good
an
advice.
exceptionally stressful process.
Yeah,
But if you are prepared to go down that route, then you're better to go to someone like Guy to go just to make it. Guy saying 2.5%, but it's probably the best 2.5% you're going to pay, because you'll pay
yeah,
1% to be stuck on the market for 16 weeks, and then you will go through the whole buying process anyway, and that could be half a year that's tied up. So,
yeah.
I just.
And the other thing is, Rob, that we sell a very interesting selection of properties. A lot of properties that estate agents wouldn't generally be comfortable with selling, we can sell. For example, lock-up garages. We've sold lots of lock-up garages, freehold ground rents, little bits of land. I mean, one of the great examples, we have got an agent that we work with. It's a one-office firm down in Devon. Very, very nice folks, and they're one of our network auction partners. They had a client who went to their lawyer and said the dad had passed away. The dad was a very successful developer in the 70s, 80s, and into the 90s. He'd got 200 little bits of land left. I mean, some of these bits of land were just enough to park a car. Some were even smaller than that. But some realistically had some development potential, but there was no planning. And the lawyer had given the clients the advice to hand everything back to the Crown, because there was some question about someone trying to sue the company for certain reasons, and we said no, we don't think that's a good idea. We think we can sell them very successfully. Well, when we raised £2.3 million over a period of time with selling those 200 lots, £2.3 million. You can imagine what the widow and the daughter who were benefiting from that. You know, they certainly loved us more than they loved the lawyer who told them to hand everything back to the Crown. Let me tell you that.
I can imagine. And
Yeah,
Joe, the thing is, though, Guy, it just shows you, isn't it? It's a bit of experience from different agents who've gone through different paths to get to where you end up. I mean, as I say, I remember sitting in a small independent to go to a corporate to going out on my own to bring a social media online estate agency to still working within the likes of the right moves and the Zooplas and on the markets, etc. But the collaboration of working with people to go, well, have you tried this way? Because you may not need to give up yet.
Yes.
And I think that's the, like you said, what we were saying in our earlier on conversation. Some of these experienced agents that are coming on board, some of these onboarding agents don't necessarily know about you. So if
Yeah.
I was an onboarded agent that's just got into the property market, how do I get in contact with Guy in order to get this on their
Well,
radar, as it were?
absolutely. Well, just phone us at Network Auctions. My direct dial is, as you know, 01344 851 007. Always mention if it come through, Rob, please, you must mention Rob to me so we can make sure we recognise, because we like to recognise the commissions from anyone who's introduced business to us. That's important to us. And we're very happy to have a chat with anyone. Network Auctions, www.networkauctions.co.uk. Please have a look at our sale, have a look at our catalogue, see the sort of interesting properties that we sell. We do sell three-bedroom semi-detached houses all the time. We sell flats, we sell everything, but with those odd little bits and pieces that perhaps estate agents are not familiar with. Another example we had recently was four garages in Guildford. So
Wow.
Guildford in Surrey, nice area, just four lock-up garages. We actually thought they were worth around 100, 110,000, which that we found that that was some comparables that had been the case. Put them into auction, and they made 220,000.
Wow.
So you can imagine the seller was absolutely delighted. And just on that, just for the benefit of the agents, although in this particular one, the seller was absolutely delighted to pay, they paid an overage on the commission.
Wow.
So it was 100. They were happy with that. The seller there would have been happy with 80, honestly. But we had the reserve at 110,000, and we had over. If we were to get over 120, we were going to get a 10% overage on the commission. So when we sold it for 100,000 over, that's another 100,000 over for the seller, and of which we took a 10% fee. And everyone was absolutely delighted. Because if
Yeah.
that had been on the market, what you got to remember, if that had been on the market private treaty, that would have been on the market probably, they'd probably put it on the market for 125 or something like that. And then they'd have realized that, they'd probably got knocked down, someone come in at a lower price. They'd end up getting 100,000 less than they did at auction. Now, that's not the case in all situations, but
No.
something like that where it's unusual, and lock up garages, who knows what the value of those is, because there was some development potential, limited. I mean, limited. But some people thought, well, there might be an opportunity of converting one of the garages into a studio or something like that. People have their own views on it. And of course, if they're going private treaty, they might say, well, I want to do a deal subject to planning. Well, we all know that's going to take months and months and months, and the planner's going to turn you down. And then what's even worse than that is you've got a property that's blighted because no one else can buy it with that option. But
But the main thing is, Guy, is with this opportunity for these brokers that have now got an extra string to their bow. It's
yes,
a case of being able to say, well, do you know what? We can do this for you.
yeah,
However, if you're in a rush, this is an avenue that we can push you down as well.
yeah,
It's I guess it comes back to the art of selling again. It's not being an order taker. It's about saying, right,
yeah,
these are your options, right? You may not necessarily be in a buyer. You could let your property, you could sell your property, you could auction your property, you can do Airbnb it. If we're not using and utilizing our 45-minute conversations about how to sell the property, because actually
yes,
property sells itself, as you well know, it's
yeah,
about the right marketing price and then the right place to get the right eyes on it. And as
yes,
what I've learned over the course of the last few years is, we learned how to do online social media sales when they introduced eBay. The cheaper you
yes.
advertise something, the more people are going to look at it, the more offers potentially going to come in, the higher the sale price is going to come. And that's really is essentially what you're doing with the auction.
Of course, if you've got two or three buyers, and there's only one opportunity of buying it, it's in the auction room, and you're bidding against someone else, and it's other genuine bids coming in. It's different from an estate agent say, well, yeah, I've got this other buyer and all that sort of nonsense, which people don't always quite believe.
The right lockdown, lock it down.
Knock it down.
Yeah, no,
That's
that's
it.
it. The right lockdown. Lock it down.
Oh, the right lockdown. Yeah, but I always want to knock it down. I've got a selection of gavels behind me. I've got probably what 20 gavels there, so in my collection. So I want to lock it down in knockdown.
Yeah,
Oh,
no,
knock it down.
yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, Guy, thanks ever so much for hopping on. I know you're off for your game of tennis
I'm
now.
off to play tennis. Yes, hence my own t-shirt. So apologies about that. But yeah,
likewise,
and
I'm
I'm
wearing
looking
my
forward
t-shirt.
to. I'm a tennis guy. I've been playing real tennis as well, Rob, recently. Have you heard of real tennis?
No.
There's only, let me just tell you about this because I've now got a world ranking and I'm very excited about this.
Oh, wow.
So, lawn tennis, which I've played all my life, so that's normal tennis that we all know. And last year I played at Wimbledon, which was the most fantastic experience I've ever had in
Wow.
my whole tennis career. My tennis career is finished now, but I've
It,
been playing real tennis, and real tennis is different. There are only 50 courts in the world. I'd encourage you all to have a quick look. If you have a
okay.
look on YouTube, and you can see. So I played at Hampton Court Palace earlier in the year.
That's a
I
lovely
played at
place as
Hatfield
well.
House, and then I played at Bristol Tennis Club. So look at real tennis.
I shall have a look at
Been
that.
going for 900 years. And when I played at Hampton Court Palace, the court there has been there since 1539,
Crikey.
um, and that's a long time.
It's
And that's real tennis. But lawn tennis was only invented in the 1880s, so it's a much newer sport.
Oh, I shall go and have a look at it. As I say, I actually interesting with regards to Wimbledon. Back before I became an estate agent, I actually used to work for Harris paintbrushes and decorating tools, and we used to supply the paintbrushes for them to do the and the rollers to them to do the lines for the when you
Oh,
walk.
fantastic, fantastic.
Yeah. So yeah. So
There
back
we
in
go.
that was 25 years ago now, I guess probably roughly.
Yeah,
Uh,
we're all young then.
yes, indeed,
But
absolutely. Well,
we've got the
listen.
experience now. But
Well,
we've got the experience.
the wisdom of it all.
That's
Listen,
it.
it was great talking to you, and I
Okay, thanks a lot,
shall look
Rob.
to speak to you real soon.
Yeah, take care and thanks for everything.
All
Good
right,
luck
mate.
to you and all your clients.
Lovely. Take care, mate.
Cheers.